What if Kurosawa directed a spaghetti western inside of a comic book? That's basically what you're getting with this movie. It's day 113 of 365. Today's movie, The Warrior's Way. If you're looking for a movie club to join, Ticket Stub Movie Club not only has these daily suggestions with the daily Stub reviews, but we have a monthly movie for our deeper discussion, as well as much, much more. You can find that link in my profile. Directed by Lee Seoungmoo and starring Jang Dong-gun, Kate Bosworth, and Geoffrey Rush, this is a wild ride. It is a surrealist Western martial arts mashup. Wow. It was a box office bomb and kind of critically panned, but honestly, this one kind of charmed me, not only when I saw it in 2010, but when I rewatched it for this video. I'm here to defend this quirked up little movie. It's a hodgepodge of a thing, but I kind of love it for that. Sometimes when you're at a party, you don't want a fancy cocktail. You want to drink the jungle juice and get fucked up. The recipe is simple. It's 1 part Western, 1 part martial arts swordplay with a dash of Mad Max and then a garnish of Speed Racer. This thing is absolutely either going to floor you and you'll love it, or you'll absolutely hate it because it's just so weird. When I saw it in 2010, I kind of had a hard time comprehending what exactly I was watching, but I knew that I liked it. Rewatching in 2025, a lot of the influences have become a lot more obvious to me, and that kind of made it all the more cool for me to watch. It's messy and it's odd, but it's very upfront about its surrealism, so there's a lot that you can forgive if you're willing to. And the way that it's playing with archetypes on both the Eastern and Western front, you can tell that this was somebody with a real vision. This was the director's writer-director debut, and like, what a kick-ass way to come out swinging. The only real complaint here is the performances, because this is a pretty green director, but outside of that, you can really see what they were gunning for here, and a lot of it works. So let's talk about the 3 things that I really loved about The Warrior's Way. The first thing that I really love about this movie is the CGI anime approach. When I think about movies like Speed Racer, Kung Fu Hustle, Warrior's Way, I'm thinking of movies that are daring. The CGI technology at the time was still kind of growing. It wasn't all the way there as far as photorealism goes, and so there's a lot of surrealism that could be played around with, and boy did they play around with it. Speed Racer was not well liked when it first came out, but it's grown as a cult following because as we look back at that time and have a little more nostalgia for that look, what we end up finding is there was purpose behind these decisions. If you can't go fully photorealistic, then go a little surreal. Make the backgrounds beautiful paintings instead of making them hyper detailed. That's what I really like here. Half of the backdrops is just sunsets dropped in the background as if we were looking at a live action manga. I think that is such a cool approach to making something like this pop off of the page. And that's part of the Eastern approach to this filmmaking. Now, we all know Westerns are deeply influenced by Eastern filmmaking, and so them borrowing that aspect back almost doesn't make this a split East-West thing, but really all East and East-adjacent stuff. The Western archetypes that are on display here are just Americanizations of things that we were recognizing the similarities between our cultures. And so when it borrows them back to make this live-action anime Western Eastern collision, I'm seeing something as a very unified product here. It ends up looking gorgeous by the end of it. If it isn't a little odd, that's okay. Imagine the frames of this movie as stills in a comic book, and you have an exact idea of what they're going for. Rose petals dropping into blood with a sword sticking in the sand. That's nothing if not a legit berserk panel. Demon Slayer has so many similarities to The Warrior's Way if you're willing to look at it through the lens of someone that's trying to combine Eastern filmmaking sensibilities with Western filmmaking sensibilities. It's aggressive and it's gung-ho, and I really want to applaud it for that. The second thing that I really dig about this movie is that it dares to be different. There are not many movies like this. When I list them out, there was only a handful of things that I could really reach for that are similar to this. There are movies with this approach, combining Eastern and Western ideologies, but with a much more realistic take on the filmmaking, that you end up with something like a Shanghai Noon. Or you have the fully surrealist approach that's not really doing the archetypes from the eras and so you end up just veering off to the left or right. This runs straight down the middle, almost bullheadedly, and I really appreciated that on my recent rewatch. It stood out to me how unique this movie ends up being and feeling, and honestly, I want it to get remade or get a sequel or something along those lines, just so we could get another approach to the acting. The acting's the only thing that I'm a stickler for when watching this, and it's only because you can tell that the actors were kind of left to their own interpretations on these characters. Geoffrey Rush is a long-time actor. He knew exactly what he was doing and the kind of character that he was playing. But then Kate Bosworth, who has done incredible roles, she's played Lois Lane before. She doesn't know quite what kind of movie she's making here, and so she's running between playing like a young boy character, a tomboy, and then this young woman grown into a woman. She's part warrior, part mom. It's not exactly right, and so while that complaint stands, everything else is just so daring and different that I have to compliment it for that. A standout movie is more fun than something that's boring and mundane. Sure, there's probably a way to turn this movie into a drinking game, but you're also gonna have a great time watching that drinking game. So this ends up being like the best of both worlds. Yes, that was a pun. The third and final thing that I really, really love about this movie is the whole final act. I get that there might be a little suffering in the first 2 acts leading up to when you get here. You gotta have fun with it. It's inviting you to have a good time and to play along in this world of surreal imagination. But if you're willing to do that, the payoff is absolutely fantastic. Not only do we get a Mad Max Western style, a city full of circus freaks versus a bunch of road-weary raiders, which in its own right is so much fun, combining dynamite and sharpshooting and swords, but it keeps one-upping itself, because after that, a clan of assassin ninjas descend upon this town to go to war with the raiders. This leads to sequences like someone with a machine gun getting their hands cut off and that machine gun turning around to shoot them while their hands are still attached to it. I'm sorry, I can't make up stuff how good this movie's final act is. And once we get through the 2 major battles, we then get a much more subtle, subdued version of a hallway fight, just like the ones you love on Netflix, with immaculate lighting, leading up to a final battle, not only between our protagonist protege and her villain, but then our protagonist and his villain pay off from the beginning of the movie. It's just too wild. Like, I don't want to spoil that much else because it ends up being so much fun, but the visuals are straight out of a comic book that was never written. Even if you choose not to go back and watch this whole movie, which you would be missing out if you did that, I still say look up the finale of this movie on YouTube at least, just for the crazy, insane, awesome, cool shit that they pull off. Usually I end these videos asking what you think, but I'm actually going to be shocked if many people have seen this movie at all. I might have one of the few tickets that were printed in America for this movie, and definitely one of the last ones that's still around to this day. But we're coming to a close for our movies from 2010. Our last one is going to be Tron Legacy, so let's jump in the grid, and I'll see you tomorrow.